Hello and welcome again to Relax with Watercolour. Today we're going to visit Donegal and Mulroy Bay in particular. It's on the way to Carrigart, and Mulroy Bay would have some salmon farms in it, mussel farms, and that area is a very well known sea trout area as well. Now, one of the things about Mulroy Bay is that it has a lot of distance in it, so I want to try and create that today, and we want to try and get in some sort of a mist over the mountains and some trees into it as well. So we're going to start off in our timeless fashion. We're going to wet our paper 2/3 of the way down, like this. Draw our horizon line in, like that. And some nice clean fresh water and up into the sky. And wet 2/3 of the paper. Now, one of the things that people always ask me is why I paint with 2 brushes. Well, it's only just because it's such a big area to paint. It's a lot quicker with 2 brushes than it is with 1 brush. And then someone said to me one day, that why don't you just use a bigger brush? Well, there was never no other use for a bigger brush only than this. And the 2 brushes work quite well. Now, our paints that we're going to use. I'm going to take out some ultramarine blue. Put that there. And then I'm going to use some yellow ochre. Now the yellow ochre is going to be on the horizon line. And I'm just going to put in a little drop of alizarin crimson. So those are the 3 colours I'm going to be using for our sky. Now, I'm starting off with my lightest tone, which is the yellow ochre. I want to get that along the bottom, just here. It's just more or less creating my horizon line with that. And I don't want that to go any higher than that, because my next colour is ultramarine blue, and if the blue hits this colour, it'll turn it into a green colour. So I want to keep my blue at the very top. So I'm just changing my brush for this. I'm taking my ultramarine blue, and this is going to the very top of the painting, up here, up out of the way. Now they will hit each other eventually, but before they do, I'm going to add in the secret weapon to stop them from changing colour to the green, and that is the alizarin crimson. So if I add in a little bit of alizarin crimson into the blue, that purple tone will be enough. Just put that across like that. That will be enough to stop any bleeding of the blue into the yellow and for changing the colour. Now, just going to rise this and let that run up into the sky. My yellow ochre, my mauve, that's my blue mixed with my alizarin crimson, and the blue itself. And if I turn that around that way there and let that bleed back down again, you get some nice different shapes. Now, the whole point of this, you get the 3 colours into the sky, where normally you might get 1 colour or you might get 2 colours. So you're getting the 3 colours into the sky here. Just turn it back that way there, slightly. And I'm going to let that rest there. Now this is very important. I want to get this distant headland in while it's still wet. So I'm taking my ultramarine blue and mauve mixture, and I'm just going to apply it to this area here while it's still wet. And I don't want to do too much, just there. That's all I want. And I'll let that dry, and then I'll bring in another headland over the top of that. Just want to straighten that off a little bit. There we go. Now, I'm going to dry the sky and that distant mountain. Now I'm going to put my painting up onto the easel. Now I want to try and get in a nearer mountain here now. It's going to be kind of a mistiness about it. So I'm going to take my colours, my ultramarine blue, my alizarin crimson, and I'm going to add in a third colour. I'm going to add in indigo. So it's going to be quite a dark mountain. And this time I'm just going to take those colours now, mix them up. A little bit more indigo in there. Now, because we have that distant headland in there, I want to try and capture this mountain. So I bring this in like this, and I bring it down here. There. Just below that. Now what I want to try and do, bring that back here. There. And I'm going to add in a little bit of water, clean water, just on its own, and add it in here. Like that. A little bit more. Some more water like that. Now I'm taking my detail brush here, and I'm just going to push it in here like this. And as you can see, it's blending with it, but the paint isn't running all over the place this time. And those little white areas there, leave them in, because they make it look, they give a little bit of a feeling to it. The same here, get that in there. I have to work fast here because I don't want that drying off too quickly, because I want to try and keep some of that. Yep, that's going to be okay. And same here as well. Just push that around there. Just give the impression, it's almost like it has a mistiness about it. Now again, I'm going to just take my brush, just damp, push it through, let it almost blend together. There we go. Takes the sharp edges off it. That's all we need to do. There. You can always add a little bit more to that with your different tones. Just there. I'm going to put another one in front of that again, another little sort of a headland in front of this again, just a little one, just there to give it that distance. Now for that I need a new colour. I'm going to add in the yellow ochre. Some right there anyway. Now, before we do that, I just want to sharpen up some of these little touches there. And they will almost give the impression like they're rocks in the distance. So we'll just, and how you do that is those little light tones that you see there, those little light tones, if you add a darker shade to them, you get almost like rocks there, like that. Just little touches like that. You don't need too much, just like that. There we go. Here and there, not too much. It just brings that mountain a little bit closer than the distant mountain here. Now I'm going to put in a small little mountain in front of that, taking my yellow ochre, my indigo, mixing the two together. I'm going to add a little bit more water to. By adding more water, what you actually do is you lighten the tone up. So I'm just lightening up this tone. I'm just going to put it in here now, so just a little bit here. Yeah, that's okay there. I don't want too much on that, and I'm just going to bring that down. That just gives it the feeling that that is closer than the other one. There we are. Now we're going to put another one in front of this one here. And to do that, I'm going to add in just a little bit more indigo to it this time and less water. So you end up getting a darker tone. See that, look? And I'm going to drop that down a little bit lower there to give it the impression that it's that little piece nearer than the other one. So a little more of that. There you go. So a little bit more paint, less water, even though it's the same color. By doing that, you're bringing that mountain there a little bit nearer, this one further back, and so on. So you're creating this depth. And I'm bringing this up here now. We have a whole tree section that I'm going to be putting in here now in a few minutes. So I'll just leave that there. And so that doesn't dry to a kind of a crisp edge, what I'm going to do is take my brush and I'm just damping the brush. I'm creating an area there that's wet, and then I'm just going into the paint and touching it. And that'll bring it out, and that'll soften that area there. So when I'm ready to go back into that area, I won't have a hard edge to work from. I can just push that down a little bit there. There we go. So now I want to work on this area here and get some nice water in here with a little bit of a... I don't want any sparkle in this time. You know the way you should do the water, we get a sparkle in all the time. This time I'm going to show you a different technique. I'm just going to pull in a flat wash of colour. And again, it's just the ultramarine blue mixed with a little bit of alizarin. And this time, all I want to do is I want to apply this very slowly, like that, very slow, because I don't want the sparkle. Now I'm developing the sparkle there, so I want to take that away. So I'm just bringing the brush shape a different way. I'm taking that sparkle out. And welcome back to the program, to Harry's Helpful Hints. A lot of people have a problem with greens, so I'm going to show you various greens that you can create using yellows, blues, and like Payne's grey or indigos. So the various tones. I'll start off with the lightest, which is just yellow. And I'm just taking a detail brush, some clean water. There's the yellow. Now I see this so often all the time that people have the problem with greens. So we'll start off in a nice straight line like this. And there's my first attempt there. That's just yellow on its own. Now let's see what happens when you add a little touch of ultramarine blue. So I'm just taking a slight touch of blue. Now all I'm going to do this time is just add the blue to the green so you see what happens. It's just a little bit of blue. And I'm going to add just some water to that, just clean water. That's going to get me across there a lot faster. So I'm going to add now a little bit more blue to the yellow. So this time, a little bit more blue to the yellow. You get a different effect. And just come down each time just to see one in front of the other. Now the next time I'm going to add more blue to the yellow. And this is more blue. Still only using the same two colours. I've just added a little bit more blue each time. And I am going to add more blue to the yellow. And as you can see, we're still getting different tones. Now this time, I'm going to add yellow to the blue. And again, you get a different tone each time. Now let's see what happens when we add indigo to yellow. A little bit of indigo, a little bit of yellow. Start off with a little bit first. And as you can see, we now have a darker tone completely. Again, I'm going to add more indigo to the yellow, and again it gets darker. So from starting off, we have our yellow, we add a little bit of blue, you get a different tone that goes from yellow to a light green. By adding more blue, it gets darker and darker and darker until finally you can't add any more blue, so you add a little bit of yellow to the blue instead. And then we then go on to a new colour, which will be indigo or Payne's grey, and the yellows with those are very dark greens, which are fantastic for doing trees. The summer trees, you'll add the blues, and the winter trees, you will add the darker tones, especially if you want to try and show some sunlight coming through them. So with those little bit of colour then, if I add a little bit more indigo, there we go. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 different tones of green from those 3 colours. And if you add yellow ochre to those colours, it's a much more muted type of colour, but as you can see, you still get greens. So all those different tones, one in front of the other, it's the same thing with our Mulroy Bay painting. You've headlands in front of headlands in front of headlands. So let's now go back to our painting. Now, my trees here. I'm going to put in a block of trees here. Take that out of there. I'm going to leave that area. Remember we softened that off there with the edge. I'm going to try and capture that and leave that there. So I'm going to darken just around that particular area, so that dark tone against that light tone will just show that up very well. Now I'm going to put another little block here, like that. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my rigger brush. Actually, I'm going to take my fine detail brush, and I'm going to push in some tree trunks, shapes, like that. There we go. And that'll define those. I want to put in a bit of a headland there now. So I'm taking my ultramarine blue, my yellow ochre, mix those two together. And I want to get in that shape there. This is kind of like a lot of foliage up here. And I'll just bring that over there and bring it down here. There we go. Bring that back. This is a tidal stretch. All of this is all tidal. And when the tide is out, you have this almost like these mud flats going right back. And it's a lovely area. Now we just take those tones there, and I'm going to sharpen in some light red in there. I want to get the light red, and I want to mix it with some of the indigo, and that could do like for seaweeds and things like that as well. Get them in here and there, like that. Try and get in a little bit of a sandy shore here, and I want to leave a little gap there. I'm not going to have much room to do it, but I'll get it in anyway. Clean water, yellow ochre. I just want to try and get in the effect of that the tide is on the way out. And then I'm going to add in a little bit of a headland here as well. So lighten my tones and get one in here. It's probably still a little bit wet. Here we are. Don't want to do too much with that. You're just giving the impression that there is land here and that we're actually standing on solid ground. I'm going to put some reeds in here as well, and grasses. I want to give the impression that there's a little bit of a reflection happening here as well. So I'm just going to pull that down, get some colour, pull that down there like that. And that will give the impression that it's not just all sand here. Just like that. So you're creating an impression that there's a reflection here. There we go. Because that's wet there, that'll bleed nicely just down into that. I want to get another little bit of headland in here and some reeds, and then that should more or less wrap up that painting. I'm not quite happy here between this headland and that headland, so I want to try and get in a little bit of a mountain between the two, just to create that is too near and that is too far away. So I want to put something else in there to allow for that. So I'm going to put in a little bit more the headland there, just to create that little tone there, to bring it a little bit closer. There we are. So that allows that to go far away, nearer, 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 and so on. So a couple of little reeds and so on here. I'm just going to put them up over the top of that, so it doesn't really matter about that. You can still see it there. Some little grasses there to give the impression that we're standing on firm ground. A few of these fellas in. These are always great to do. They're good fun. People enjoy. Once they realise that they can do it, they're very happy to sit there and play with the brush, creating a few little brush strokes like that. And again, a few more of those little reeds. There's our reflection. I just want to put in just a slight little tone there of colour here. Could be rocks, could be anything. Now, I'm just going to get a couple of more little tones in there. Just a little bit of indigo. We're nearly ready, nearly finished. Just a couple of more little rocks in there, just to give that a more authentic look to it. So we'll just bleed that in there. Over here, bleed it down there. So until the next time, this is Harry Feeney. Relax with watercolour. Goodbye.